And we are live.
We are live and we are happy. Tonight is a great night. We've been looking forward to this for, oh my gosh. I mean, when we realized we were doing this, I don't know, it's been like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And here we are, and we're excited. It's been a long day. We've got a lot of work to do, but I feel invigorated already. Because
there's energy. There's palpable energy in this room right now.
There's always energy, because of course our special guest tonight is the incomparable Rick Steves. Just consummate traveler, everyone's favorite travel expert, and yet he never comes off as sort of this like preachy kind of person. It's just like what he loves, and you get totally sucked into his passion and how to travel. And I know everyone tuning in tonight has been deeply influenced by him and his overall perspective of travel, and we all learn from him. And so we're very excited. Obviously, Rick has also become a very good friend of ours as well. I remember the first time I met him in Chicago at the Chicago, Hyatt breakfast buffet, getting my scrambled eggs, and there was Rick Steves, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not even gonna get ketchup. But he's how he is on camera is how he is in real life. Actually, that's not entirely true. I feel like Rick is really lovable, personable, just magnetic on camera, and he is an absolute riot off camera. I mean, funny, laugh your butt off.
Life of the party.
Life of the party. Yeah, absolutely. So fun. And of course, and he strikes this amazing balance whenever we're with him, because obviously he could dominate every single conversation, even when we're with like massive travel experts like Pauline Fromer and Peter Greenberg and Josh Gates. Like Rick could just lead everything, and yet he sits back and he listens, and then he interjects. He's just a wonderful all-around person. I mean, I think he's just one of our favorite people, so we're really excited to have him tonight. So we'll bring him on, but just so you know, and everyone I know is excited, we're going to talk travel. We're going to see what he's been up to, because obviously the pandemic has affected us all in many ways. He has an amazing tour company. He writes books. I know he has some really fabulous projects in the works now that I'm going to ask him about. So hopefully he can talk about it tonight. And then we're going to.
I got to interrupt you. Excuse me.
Yes.
Liza, not a repeat. This is live. It's a Facebook Live.
This is a Facebook Live.
Like right now, I'm going to point at Samantha. Live. It's live.
Should we hold up the newspaper, that shows the date? Isn't that how you always say that? And then we're going to be watching my show, Tips to Make Travel Count.
Yep.
And Rick's going to watch along and interject. I think the last time we did this, we just interjected and stopped, which was really nice because it was a nice flow. So just kind of giving his points, because I know everyone would just love to understand, as we kind of are in this point of uncertainty, of just not even travel, but just being human beings, how travel affects both Rick and I, and how we are better human beings because of it, and how we continue to use travel to be better humans in this world. So we'll be talking about that as well. Anybody else we should hello from Nashville, Columbia, Rocio Sabagal Shockley.
Lots of people on. We got almost 1,000 people live with us right now.
Best name ever.
I don't think we said Happy New Year. This is the last week. We only got a few more days before we can kind of stop doing that smugly. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everyone. Happy New Year.
Tons and tons of people online. But, I don't think there's a better episode. We've filmed 52 episodes now. I don't think there's a better episode to have Rick on, to be honest. Because this episode is not about a particular place. It's just about the idea of travel.
Yeah. The idea of travel that literally has no bearing on how much money you spend or how far you go. And I know Rick usually goes very far in terms of Europe, but his principles, his perspectives are really grounded in where he's from and who he is, and that stays with him no matter where he is. And so that's something I know we both feel very strongly about, that the importance of travel is not measured in miles or how much money you spend on it. It's really about the connections that you make. So it's good.
Eric Pridemore from Colbert, Oklahoma, says they do like watching Rick Steves Europe and Samantha Brown's Places of Love, where it airs every day. And I just say, just seeing the name of our show next to Rick's like that, it's like, it's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome. That's high praise, just kind of throwing our name alongside of Rick's, because it doesn't get any better than Rick Steves.
No.
Yeah, we got the whole gang here. Wow.
I know.
Full house. This is great. So, should we bring him in?
I think so.
I think, we've done talking about him.
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Or should I say, Sir?
Sir Rick Steves?
Sir Rick Steves?
Oh, baby.
Oh, I love the angle of your camera now, where you can really see both sides of your house. The last time I was with you, it was really featuring, I think, more of your left side, and now we're really seeing the whole thing.
Yeah, this is my world right here on the computer screen. My frame.
Your frame of reference. It is so good to see you, my friend. And it's been a little while, right? The last time we did this was maybe 8 months ago. We did this in the spring, right?
I think so. I think it's high time we got back together again. And it was so fun to be sitting outside the door listening to you guys rave about my show. I could do the same thing about you. I think we're both lucky we found our niches and we do what we love. And it comes off like we're great. But we just are really kind of fortunate, blessed people to be able to work really hard and get a lot of thanks from people who love our travels. And it's really, the world's a beautiful place. Let's get out there. And I always think it's cool to be able to compare notes. So I'm looking forward to comparing notes tonight.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Rick Steve's going to take notes from me.
It sounds like there's going to be a
right.
test.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, listen, I saw that you were in Europe. So we want to hear about your trip, what you did, because it's pretty amazing what you did. But also, first off, how long had it been since you had been to Europe from the initial lockdown?
Actually, sorry. Can I just to put a pin on that? There was a question about Marcus Holmberg was asking about cocktails, and we agreed tonight we were doing wine, and Rick kind of raised it up a gear because he's Rick Steves. He does what he wants. He's Rick Steves, and he said he's going to drink ouzo.
It's a little more cultural what Rick is doing.
Yeah.
Oh,
all right.
Is there a glass involved, Rick? Or no? Oh.
Yeah, no. Well, I've got my Rocky glass.
Whoa.
And this is ouzo. So what I wanted to do is make a little cultural lesson, because the Turks claim a lot of things to be theirs and the Greeks claim a lot of things to be theirs, but actually they're both of theirs. And you got ouzo over here and you got Rocky over there, and it's essentially the same thing. It's kind of like a pastis in Paris, I think,
Oh, I didn't realize. I've never heard the term Rocky. So that's basically a licorice, like an anise liqueur, but made in, okay. Nice.
And Rick,
if
in
you
honor of
tasted
you,
a Rocky.
in honor of you, we are enjoying one of our hoarded Swiss wines. Because I know you had your own Facebook Live or Monday Night Live last night about Switzerland, right?
Yeah,
and
I needed a Swiss wine.
Yeah, it's hard to do this.
Anyway,
but you can only buy this at the airport.
He hasn't drank that much ouzo yet, so he's like, I can't see that. It's all blurry. It's like
it's blurry now, but in a moment it'll come into focus.
So anyway, we brought these back from Switzerland, and so that we have I think one more left, and it's precious to us. But if we're gonna have wine with Rick Steves, we're gonna have some special wine. That's our Swiss hoarded stash.
That is
from Switzerland.
The Swiss,
and they don't really export.
They don't export it. It's expensive. They drink it locally, and it really is good.
It's phenomenal. It really is nice. Well,
so let's have a little cheers.
Cheers.
Wait a minute. I got to do my Rocky here. So I got my ouzo, and then of course when you're in a tavern in Greece, the old guys will impress you by they dribble a little water in. I don't know if I can do this, but they dribble a little water in, and then it goes the cloudiness goes to the top if you're really good at it. I'm not.
Nice.
It's just all cloudy.
That's
sort of a chemistry test there. But if I was good, it would have been a two-tone drink. But here's to you guys. Happy New Year.
Cheers. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Okay, so sorry I interrupted there. You were asking about.
God, I just love the only licorice I like is a liquid. This is really
that right?
nice. Yeah, this is. This is just good, and you get that constant right across the Mediterranean, don't you?
Yeah.
Anise.
It's a little too strong for me. I'm a real lightweight when it comes to alcohol. So I have to manage it.
No.
I just go for a nice Swiss wine. It's very neutral, right? Like the country.
Vera Tucker
the
would love
Swiss
to have
wine is
Ouzo.
so nice.
Yeah.
I always say in my lectures, I say, you want to be a temporary local. I'm sort of a cultural chameleon, and I do things in Europe or overseas, wherever I am, that I would never do at home. I like to say I never work a long day and I come home here into Seattle and think, oh, I feel like a nice cloudy glass of ouzo. That just seems ridiculous. I wouldn't do that. I don't even like it that much. But when I'm in
a breakfast
Greece,
drink in
I don't
Italy.
let a sunset go by without a
Yeah.
glass of ouzo. It's a
Yeah,
mild
yeah.
in the
So so how long had it been since you'd been to Europe when you were there?
Oh God, this is I'm getting so tired of this thing, this
Mm.
pandemic. We were coming off of our best year ever, 2019. I mean, we
Yeah.
were just euphoric. I had 100 of our tour guides right here in my living room, packed in here. We have our annual week-long seminar and celebration and workshop and sell our tours and all that kind of stuff. And 100 guides from every country in Europe here, and we were breaking from that huddle. They all flew home. We were sold out already in February, whatever that was, and then a couple weeks later, 10 miles from here in Kirkland,
Right.
that's where the first outbreak
That's right.
was.
Yeah.
And thank God we didn't. If that virus was going around, we were on a party boat out here on the Puget Sound, all drinking and dancing and almost, spitting on each other with our trying to be heard above the din. We would have spread that thing all over Europe, but we were all safe and healthy, thank goodness. And then
Yeah.
we had to cancel everything down. I had a flight to Istanbul. I had a beautiful year of travel ahead of me. I spent 100 days a year in Europe and no travel in 2020. I thought no travel in 2021. And then I probably just like you guys, I was feeling really antsy and I had to make a tough decision as a leader in a lot of different ways. People wonder, well, what's Samantha Brown going to do? What's Rick going to do? And then they'll probably think it's all right. But just personally, I wanted to go to Europe and see what it was like. So we flew to Geneva, then to Chamonix, and hiked around Mount Blanc. My girlfriend and I, with a couple of friends from Minnesota, and we had the time of our life hiking around Mount Blanc. And for me, it was going to the limit physically to do a 60-mile hike up in the mountains, and every night sleeping in a little village and eating great food, and every morning gaining 3,000 feet and having a little picnic on the ridge, and then hiking into the next valley. It was a glorious trip. I just spent the afternoon updating it, as a matter of fact, in our France book, everything I learned about that trip. And then I went home after that and went back a couple of weeks later for a guide mentoring tour. I got to be the tour guide and had 25 of our young new guides on the bus. They're all professional guides, but I wanted them to know, what's a Rick Steves tour, So I spent 12 days with them in Italy on our Heart of Italy tour, and they were the tour members. And we demonstrated everything we think is important in our style of travel. And that was cool. And it was a way for us to test the waters during COVID. What's it like? You can't bring 25 people in the academia to see David. You got to break it into smaller groups. There's a lot of things you do different. Not a lot of things, but a few things you got to do differently because of COVID. And then I met my TV crew in Florence, and we filmed for 4 days in Florence, 4 days in Rome, and 4 days in Athens. Nothing but glorious art. We're doing a 6-hour art series coming up, and I'm just so excited about that. And the problem with filming nowadays in Europe, you might be interested in knowing, nobody's at their desk in Europe. It's just like you can't get permissions. It's so hard to get things nailed and done and organized.
It was tough to begin with. The Europeans aren't the most, unless you're in Switzerland, the Swiss, the Germans, the Norwegians, the Swedish, the Scandinavians, great Italy, Spain.
So you just feel like we're working so hard here to turn people onto your country. And they make you feel like you're not very welcome. But then you go to Switzerland and it's like, you want some of that Swiss wine? We can help you out.
Exactly. So when you were doing the Mont Blanc, which is traditionally 100-mile hike, right? But you did like the 60 miles because everything's easier for Rick Steves in Europe.
He read his book.
When when I've talked to you in the past, and maybe I never picked up on this, I never felt like that you actually went to Europe to do anything other than meet with your guides, really check up on your past books to make sure that they're still in play and certain things and how you need to edit. The idea that you were there really just to enjoy yourself with your partner and friends, is that rare?
That was it almost never happens. Seriously, I cannot remember. I needed a vacation from COVID.
Yeah.
And for 6 days, I didn't even think about COVID. There's no COVID on the Tour de Mont Blanc. I think they've had one case in 2 years in Chamonix, And it was just very unusual for me to thoroughly be on vacation. I was doing a great thing in Europe for my first time, and it's not covered in my guidebook, so I didn't need to frantically be taking notes and checking things out. And this is quite a concept, vacation in Europe. I kind of like it.
For Rick Steves, I mean, and that is amazing because you work hard. I mean, you take note. You are always on. That's definitely what I've taken away from being with you, and just the idea that there was this Rick that got to enjoy Europe in a way that he obviously projects to other people and feels. But so I guess my question to you is like emotional traveler to emotional traveler. Clearly, the pandemic has not dimmed your feeling of the importance of travel. But can you talk about how maybe your perspective has been allowed to evolve or change in the fact that you have been able to have a distance from it?
I really believe we're at a turning point as a society, even broader than as humanity. The challenges that will confront us going forward, I think, are going to be impervious to, typical defenses and walls and things that we've had in the past. And it's going to take nations working together. It's going to take good governance. It's going to take embracing science. It's going to take an attitude where it's not win-lose. It's got to be win-win. We could win it here, and they can lose it south of the border, and it'll just blow over. I mean, think of the pandemic. Think of climate change. Our children are going to be dealing with some pretty serious challenges, and they're not insurmountable, but they're going to be very tough to deal with if nations are not working together. So I think travel and getting to know each other and connecting, as you celebrate in Tips to Make Travel Count, I think that's going to be more important than ever. I just wish everybody had to travel before they could vote, frankly. I mean, of course, that's not quite the right way to do it. But if you had an electorate that had that broader perspective, you would vote so smartly. You would vote with so much more compassion. One beautiful thing about travel is it reminds you the world is filled with joy and with love and with beautiful people. Don't you find that, Sam, when you're out?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when we were shooting our season 5, we were positioned more here in the United States. And, I watch a lot of news to the detriment of my own sort of mental health. And I always just felt like, oh, gosh, this is awful. Like, we just hate each other. And then when you travel, you're like, oh,
where's that? Yeah.
Like, where's the hate? And so it's just like the news will convince you that we're not going to pull through. But when you travel, you realize a very different world and a very different human connection is happening. So that's why because I can get really sucked into the bad news and this hatred that's happening. And then when you travel, you're like, oh.
Well, think about people who have. Think about people who have no passport and their whole worldview is shaped by commercial news. I mean, they're frightened. They're more likely to be frightened people. They're more likely to be manipulated by fear-mongering news. And I just think it's unfortunate to go through life with that sort of fear. I mean, I just think it's a joy to get out there and realize, hey, this world's a beautiful place. Sure, there's problems, there's challenges, but I just think there's so much to be to get to know. There's so many places to love, I think you would say.
Yeah.
Rick, I have a really important question for you. What advice would you give this man?
Oh my goodness, look at that guy. I would give him advice. Well, first of all, get a haircut.
And, I love your haircut.
No, that was a great day. That was the day I graduated from high school. I was heading off to Europe with my buddy, and I bought the biggest backpack I could find. That's what I would say. You don't go to Europe like you're going to be hiking in the Rockies for a month. You go to Europe intending to live off the land. I had everything packed into that big thing.
That's wonderful. I love it. I love it.
Where did
That's
you
great.
find that, Kevin?
I don't know. I have lots of
Somewhere.
pictures, home pictures of you on my hard drive, Rick. But that's not for this. That's not for this conversation.
That's a different show. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we've one thing. I apologize. We got so excited about Rick. We forgot to mention kind of our big news this week.
What's that?
Our show's premiering.
Oh yeah. Oh well. I mean, I feel like we put that on social media. Yeah.
But I mean, it's we're really proud of our 5th season, and we have 8 great episodes, starting with Asheville, North Carolina. That airs. It's actually already started airing today.
Yeah.
As early as today. Most people will see it over the weekend. But if you go to our website, there's a link that you can look up your zip code to find out exactly when it's playing in your region. But yeah, we had 8 great episodes. Asheville.
We had one of the people who are watching. We had somebody who was just watching say they love to see your show and my show on public television, and I love to see them right together, 1 hour of travel with the both of us. It's really nice.
Both our shows are too they're too quick by themselves, right? Like even when I watch one of your shows, I'm like, whoa, I was just getting into this. Like, come on. So a block of travel is always good because I think people just get warmed up. Great. So it's nice.
Congratulations, 5th season. Wow.
Regina's got her DVR all set for season 5. It's again, it's a different time in every city, so I can't say, watch it, 4:00 on Sunday. Look up your particular region, and look up when Rick shows are on as well. But best thing to do is set your DVR, then they just kind of pop up.
Yeah.
And you watch them.
Yeah.
Well, I'll look forward to it.
Yeah. Actually, so Jonas watched on Channel 25 in New York City. WNYE was the first one to air it. They beat WLIW to the punch. They were the first one in the nation, actually. Showed it at noon today. It went live at midnight overnight, and they were on at noon right away. The freshest file they could get.
I love it.
That's exciting. Congratulations.
Should we start our episode?
I think we should start. And so, what are the rules? Like, because I feel like the last time
you get 3 strikes and you're out.
No, it went really well. Where we just kind of stopped and started. And Rick, if you saw something, you could chime in with. I think people really responded to that instead of like waiting to the end, right? Like if there's something fresh, just or maybe I'll stop and be like, Rick.
Button? Kevin's got the pause button.
We both got it. We both have access to it. It's the green one. Do not hit the red button, Samantha.
Don't hit the red button.
Don't hit the red button. That sends the cops to Rick's house.
Oh boy, let's do that. I like that idea. We'll just enjoy the show, and if you feel like stopping, Sam, go ahead and do it, and we can talk about whatever you want. I'll kind of let you lead that, but if I feel like screeching to a halt and saying something, I'll go like this. Hey,
perfect.
Great. Let's get going.
Tips to make travel count.
We ask a lot of our travels. We want travel to relax us. We want it to make us feel fulfilled. We want travel to bring us closer to our family and friends. We want it to reinforce our own sense of self. And we want all that to happen in the 5 days we have off. But here's the thing. Travel can do all of that for you, no matter where you go and how much time you have. It's all in how you approach it. Now, there's no doubt that we have experienced a loss of travel. We may still be experiencing it, but that has only reinforced our deep need for it. And going forward, there's going to be even greater importance put on our travels, making up for lost time, reconnecting with loved ones, and creating memories that were put on hold. So I would love to share with you how even in the short amount of time, I'm in a new destination, a new country, a totally different culture, with my family or solo, I get the most out of my travels. These are my personal tips on how to make travel count.
I'm Samantha Brown, and I've traveled all over this world.
And this is the point where we talk about our sponsors a bit. Again, all of our sponsors from season 4 renewed.
Yeah.
And we're really proud of that.
That was huge. That was huge for us because that literally makes it
possible to have the show.
For us to have our shows, and people and corporations and organizations and travel companies that support public television really understand the audience that they're going for, and that is a traveling audience, an audience that travels at least twice a year internationally before the pandemic, and 4 times a year. I mean, the public television audience loves to travel, and they are also insatiably curious about the world.
Yeah, and that's so what we're looking at here is our friends at Fort Myers. We did an awesome show in Fort Myers in season 4. And
there's a lot of travel shows that would love to have the underwriting. And for all of your underwriters to re-up, that's a compliment, not because they just like you, but because it's good for them. I mean, you
Yes.
connect with travelers and it's a feather in their cap.
Exactly.
yeah, and that's our great friends at Ama Waterways. I think they're kind of wrapping up their season right now because they usually take they finish up New Year's Eve cruises and then they kind of take a break for a few months for the spring. Hopefully things will calm down between now and then. And then while this is up, our friends at Rocky Mountaineer, Samantha's going to be, and maybe if they let me, I'll go in May from Vancouver to the Canadian Rockies. Really excited about that.
I love my holding the mic. I feel like I'm singing "Fly Me to the Moon." It's very cabaret-esque.
And the thing is, those people can't leave.
They can't. Exactly. They have to stay and listen to me. That's so true. No, don't look at that mountain there. You pay attention to me.
Hey, right here.
What do those trees have that I don't?
And all of that's put together by friends at AAA Travel who's helped put groups together for Ama Waterways trips that Samantha's been a part of, as well as the Rocky Mountaineer.
Woo-hoo.
All right. So let's...
Travel is a luxury. Sometimes it is a privilege, but it is and will always be a necessity. Now, a long time ago, before I started my job, I thought that travel was for other people. I thought that travel was for the privileged, and people not just privileged with money, but time and confidence. I thought you needed those 3 things or you shouldn't travel. And I couldn't have been more wrong about that. Travel is for everyone. And one of the most important lessons I've learned is that the benefits of travel count in your life, whether you've gone 10,000 miles away
It is good to be back.
or 2 hours from your home.
I've passed by so many times in the last close to 2 decades.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're like, oh my goodness, I had no idea.
Again, it's all in the approach.
Hey, hon, you look beautiful. Thanks, hon. It's official, I'm a hon.
So, let's get started with
We talked about the rules for this. I got a question for you, Rick. What is a hun?
Oh.
Oh, what is a hun?
And it's
must
pronounced
be,
hun.
No, it's spelled hun.
Hun. Hun.
A hun.
I have no idea.
That's from our Baltimore episode. The Huns are a group of women that get together and celebrate the kind of power women of the 50s. It's the whole beehive hairdos and all this John Waters type style things.
Yeah.
And John Waters is a big part of that whole movement.
And it's short for honey.
Yeah.
But they were Huns, and they were the first in the 50s. Their husbands were in the war, and so they became a part of the war effort, and they still had children to take care of, and so they were literally single moms holding down jobs, and they would all take care of each other's children to make sure that they had their money that they could, and so it gave them money for the first time, and then they said that's when they were like, and then we started getting confidence because we could buy our own things, and so the hair got higher. They had more leopard. Leopard is a color in the Hun vernacular, and so they wanted to get real pretty when it was time on Friday to go out because they had worked a whole week. So it's this whole. It was a real woman. It's all based on a very real, strong, independent woman who is having her independence for the first time. So that's what a
Is that a Baltimore? Is that a Baltimore thing or
Baltimore?
Yeah.
Baltimore. Yeah.
You know, it's interesting because I got to interview somebody on my public radio show who wrote a book, and they were celebrating the most popular traditional dish, like that you would eat for dinner in every state in the country.
Oh,
And every state actually had one dish that is characteristic of that state. I mean, I suppose it's a little bit of a stretch a few times, but just to think that within our country alone, you've got that many different subcultures. So you got Huns there, and you got people that eat this here, and it's really fun. And you wouldn't know that if you didn't get out.
No.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, it was definitely a real local thing.
That might be the best tagline ever. You wouldn't know that if you didn't get out.
You wouldn't know that if you didn't
It
get
doesn't matter what you're talking about, whether it's Baltimore or Istanbul. You wouldn't know that if you didn't get out.
If you didn't get out.
You wouldn't know that if you didn't get out.
And Rick, I am registering that domain right now. I beat you to it. Thank you very much. Done.
You can have it. The complete thing is, I always like to say fear is for people who don't get out very much. And the flip side of fear is understanding. And we gain understanding when we travel. So now I understand The Huns.
Well, I think, one thing, yeah, you don't understand the Huns, but also kind of on my point of, I thought I needed confidence to travel. You also feel that no, being confused and confounded is a part of the travel process.
Two of my favorite countries are the places where I get the most confused. Well, now that I think of it, I mean, in Japan, I just was constantly lost. It was delightful because people are so friendly there. When you look lost, they figure he needs help. And I had endless people just pitching in. And I always think people ask me, what's your favorite country? And they think I'm going to say France or Italy or something like that. But it's India. And I think that's really because India confuses all of my self-assuredness. It wallops my confidence. It rearranges my cultural furniture. And a lot of people are trying to avoid that kind of culture shock. But I really think culture shock is something we should seek out in our travels. It's the growing pains of a broadening perspective. I love it.
I love
Hey,
that.
Rick, Michelle Deville asked that question, so that Rick mentioned India was one of his favorite countries. I'd like to know why.
And yeah,
Well,
I think, jumping on that, what I loved about not knowing what was happening is, I think as Americans especially, we feel like we have to know things, right? Because we travel so much within our own country. There's one currency, there's one language. And so we take that mentality to other places thinking, if I don't know what that sign says, if I don't know what is this coin, I'm not going to be able, we like to be in control as Americans.
Right.
And there's a point where hanging on hurts. And all of a sudden you just have to let go. And then all of a sudden you have this freedom. Your brain just frees up because you can't hold on anymore. You are totally you're surrounded, no longer surrounded by the walls that protected you but held you in, right? And all of a sudden this new, I just equate it to being a kid again, feeling like you're 6 years old or 5 years old. And that's what I love about Asia in particular. There's no way we can figure out what's going on in Europe. We kind of learn about Europe growing up. We feel like we should know Europe. But when we're in Asia and those countries, it's like, I have no idea what's going on. I'm just gonna go with this. I'm gonna
and that's why
ride.
we're here.
Yeah.
I think our travels have kind of wired our brains similarly in so many ways, because I was just thinking about the last couple of days, as a matter of fact, I've been ending my Monday night travel show with bloopers. And my last little line is, if you're not making mistakes, you gotta start making some mistakes and laughing at yourself.
Yeah.
I love laughing at myself when I'm far away. I mean, I've walked into so many doors that say, pull, and I thought it was push. I've stepped into places you would never step into if you could read that sign. I walked in once on a whole room of naked Turkish women in a bath in one of those big hammams. And I was just a kid, and I thought, geez, are they going to kill me? I just did something really bad. I'm sorry, I didn't look, But
Are you talking about this guy right here?
Did that guy walk into a Turkish bath?
It looks like he knows, hey, I'm going to the Turkish bath when I get there.
And I'm thankful for that language barrier, baby.
Love it.
All right, let's get back to it. That's great stuff.
Thanks, hon. It's official. I'm a hon.
So, let's get started with some really great travel tips that you may have not heard before. They are a bit unconventional, but they're ones that I've developed through the 22 years I've been creating travel shows. And so I thought we would begin with how I prepare for every travel episode I have ever done, all like 330 of them. Before I get mic'd, before the cameras roll, it all begins with a walk. Going for a walk is the single most important thing that I do. When I arrive in a destination, I make time just to wander. And this has become my main pillar of travel advice to people who ask me questions like, hey, we're gonna be in Montreal. What should we see? I'll be in Dallas, Texas. What should I do? First, put the map away, put down the phone, and just go down streets because you think they look good. But get out of the touristy areas and go to where the people live and sit down in one of their public parks or their cafes and just be a part of everyday life. Because everyday life in another part of the world is absolutely extraordinary. And
Rick, have you ever had your ears cleaned like that in China?
No, I didn't know what exactly was going on. It looked pretty frightening to me. I'm nervous when in India. There's guys sitting around in the corner with little tiny metal things, and they want to clean your ear. And I said, no thanks. What was it like, Sam?
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, it's pretty amazing. It feels like your whole brain is getting a massage, and you're told that, listen, these are people who train years to do this. And so
sure.
you're just like, okay, who needs that one ear if something goes wrong?
Maybe the equivalent for me would be, I could be sitting in a barber shop in Turkey, and when you're done with the shave, they take a flaming rag and they burn any little hairs left on you, and they spank you with flames. And it's a similar sort of thing. You go, wow. You guys know what you're doing, but it seems weird to me. Yeah. Go there. Go for it. Try it. If an opportunity presents itself, say yes.
I have a lot of facial hair that I need to get rid of too.
I am not going to Turkey.
No, you'll be a bonfire, Kevin.
Yeah, exactly.
I love this idea of taking walks, though, Samantha.
Yeah.
It's just, it's so counterintuitive, because most people think, I got to go to the museum. I got to go to the top of that thing for a view. And you could say, actually, I'm going to take a walk. Yep. And when you leave the hotel, your inclination is to walk down to the Ponte Vecchio or to the Notre Dame or something famous. There's sort of a gravity to the famous places, but turn the other direction. Yeah. Or even better yet, ride the subway to the end of the line and just get out at a random stop where you think a tourist has never got out, and see what's going on. And you'd be amazing if you're writing a journal or making poems or just trying to gather ideas. It's just everywhere. It's like netting little butterflies all around you from that culture that all the tourists are missing.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree.
It's a beautiful thing.
And going for a walk is the very first thing that I do. And even though it looks like I'm walking around aimlessly, I do have a mission, and that is I want to have that moment that tells me I am here. I want to connect with the culture as it is today. And because of that, I won't spend any time in the touristy centers, because that moment that I'm going for is never found in the must-sees. It is always found in the seemingly mundane.
The seemingly mundane. Yeah, I guess what Sam's going to say right now is the seemingly mundane. Why would you travel halfway around the world for the seemingly mundane?
Exactly.
Look at that face. That's the person that's going to say that, by the way.
What? That's
mundane?
Yeah, enjoy the mundane. I didn't pay for a $2,000 flight. Yeah.
Stumbling into the mundane.
Enjoy the mundane? That is your travel advice? Yes, it is. And I know this is difficult, because we have been conditioned by advertising and social media that everything we do has to be top 5, full of superlatives. That's awesome. Change our life big, or it's not worth our time.
Okay, back in the car.
But that's why I recommend going for a walk, because on a walk, you are never looking for exclamation points. What you are on is a search for the commas, because a comma is where a person, a culture, even a country expresses itself. And a comma is where we allow ourselves to breathe and observe. Another way to interact with locals.
So that's kind of what you're saying, when just take the subway to the last stop and get out. That's what you're always searching for. For me, is not, like you say, the Ponte Vecchio, and not Piazza San Marco. It's to understand those small little crooks and nooks and crannies that people exist in.
And you got to be kind of bold. That sort of reminds me. I was in a little town in northern Wales once, and all the old ladies in the town were gathering in the little parlor there for the weekly bingo match, and it wasn't for tourists at all. It was just, that was what the seniors did in the town, is they played bingo, and they're thrilled if a tourist would stumble in there. And before we knew it, we were playing bingo with all of them. And I can hear the sing-songy voice, 27, 2 and 7, 33, all the threes, and they just had this little sing-songy way to go through it. And that was as good a memory as going to the famous castles.
So
It's
you
free.
got to join these women in Wales, and you
Yeah.
played bingo with them.
Yeah,
That's
they said,
great.
"Here, have a cup of tea, and here's a board, and play with us." But and you got a good chance when you stay in a B&B to kind of be there for tea and cookies and to watch the local comedy, or the whatever the people watch locally. I remember in Denmark sitting out back, and they just love to sit together and rip the heads off of shrimp and eat them for like an hour, and just to get invited in. I think we need to remember we are just as interesting to them as they are to us. So, they'd love to get to know us, and we have to make space in our travels where we're not just overbooked to famous attractions, but boy, it's the trick, isn't it, to get to know people.
Yeah, absolutely. And then that is a confidence I feel like I learned through all my travels that is hard for someone who's just going for the first time to trust that. But I think you talk about a lot about just like sitting down, sitting on a bench. And I thought of like Jane Goodall, right? She tells the story of how she finally became friends after like 10 months of just watching the chimpanzees. One of them finally came up to her because she was just at their level, and they got used to her. And not like you have to sit there for 10 months looking at, people who live there, but there is a sense where you have to inhabit their space and relax in it. Before there is sort of this exchange that you're picking up on, and now you can be a part of what they're doing. So there is a
to
way
remind ourselves, we're just as interesting to them as they are to us, and we're a mystery, and they're a mystery, and it's easier for us to sit down, So but that's that confidence you're talking about. But just because you and I are connected, and we got the tourist board helping us, and we've got our plans and our experience and all that. That's not a precondition for this. I mean, some people, it's natural to meet people. Other people, they got to work at it. But we can all do it. But that's a really practical travel skill, is to put yourself in the place where that kind of magic will happen. And also to stumble into things. I mean, we can all remember when our kids were in third grade talent show, Well, Portuguese parents have third grade talent shows also. And if you happen to be in a village and they're having a talent show, there's room for 2 tourists in the back seat, and you're right there watching all the kids showing off with all the proud parents. That's just great.
I love it. I always look for, wherever I am, I always look out for those like firefighter pancake breakfasts throughout the United States.
Yeah.
There's always that pancake breakfast or the pot roast Sunday. And like, I just want to walk in on one of those because I would love to be a part of that scene. So I agree. Just kind of inhabiting their space, being interesting, understanding that you are interesting to them, is a good start to any great conversation.
I got a great
and it's
comment
just so
here.
hard for us to let the spirit let the moment breathe. We're always so rushed.
A good one. Yes.
Just let the moment breathe. Take a moment. I mean, you don't need to rush on to the next thing. There's so much magic that we miss. It is the mark of a good traveler, I think.
Hey, Rick, Tommy just wrote a comment that she took your advice to get out and meet the locals, ended up meeting her European husband.
Wow, does that mean she has an American one too, and she's got 2 of them? Because I like Tommy.
That is,
got a husband in every continent.
I got
questions.
my European husband.
Take
and
a walk.
I got my Canadian
Enjoy
husband.
the comma.
I got my American
and
husband.
we got questions.
All right.
Here we go.
And everyday life is to head directly into the touristy areas. And I know I just told you to get out of those. Well, now I am telling you to go back in. 1, they are usually places of high energy and historical interest. And 2, they're in the center of it all. So really easy to get to. But once you are there, now explore the side streets. A lot of times, just 1 or 2 streets over is a whole new world where you'll find the shops and restaurants and the little squares that locals enjoy. These are the places that play an important part of a community. And when you think of it, we have all lived through a time where supporting the community was a part of our own survival. We actively sought out local businesses, from small bookshops to family-owned restaurants to artisans, to support. At every point of this adverse journey we've been on, we have worked toward providing a positive impact. And now, as travel comes back, you can take that knowledge with you, knowing that wherever you are, Wherever you're going to, no matter how new or foreign, it is someone else's local.
I've been hand weaving tweed since 1956, 61 years.
Is this yours? And now you're not just supporting a travel industry, but a community as well. Wow. But I think there's this assumption that you have to go far or put in a lot of effort to find more local and authentic experiences. And well, no, not really. You can just start by heading to where everyone and their selfie sticks go and use that area as a jumping off place for experiences that are a lot more local and a lot more unique.
Whenever I travel in the United States, I always seek out and want to eat at a strip mall restaurant. I love them. And even though strip malls themselves, the appearance of, leave a lot to be desired, the restaurants that are usually in them are exceptional. They're unique, they're family owned, and they make the best home cooking. And listen, when you are on the road all the time, that's all you want is a good hot meal. Okay. You don't get this where I live.
Right. You always hear people say after they come back from a trip, man, I need a vacation from my vacation. And this happens when we take the same approach of our overscheduled lives and just apply it to a second location. Or maybe it's your one shot to enjoy a city you have dreamed of going to your entire life, and you are gonna cram in as much as you possibly can. It's like day one Vienna. We'll start at the Schönbrunn Palace, then coffee at the Naschmarkt, visit the Hofburg Library, conduct the Blue Danube, drink the Meistersatz. But when doing and seeing as much as you can becomes your approach to travel, you become really bullied by time. And I don't know about you, but when I travel, I just want to stretch my time out and really enjoy it. And I have a way to do that. Create a ritual. Do one thing, the same thing, same time, every single day of your trip. I like to find what's going to be my place, and I'm going to return to it often. And people think I'm crazy for doing this because, like, oh my gosh, we've got to go to different places every single meal, and every meal's got to change our life, right? And I just don't believe in that. So I always find the place that I'm going to begin my day at, have breakfast.
Just to point out, that particular scene was a place in Hong Kong called Sui Hua, and I would go there every day when I was in Hong Kong. There was a period of time where I was in Hong Kong like every other month, and that was my ritual. Yeah. And when we decided to do a show in Hong Kong, like, well, I know where we're going to feature a
create a ritual
place, and it was there's that. It's perfect. It's cheap. It's local.
I love that. And in the, I mean, I know a lot about Ireland because I speak the language. You know, it's one of my. I think it's one of my favorite countries because I get the sensation that I'm understanding a foreign language. You know,
it's so true.
Oh yeah, I understand you, and I would love to speak a foreign language. But in Ireland, they really say, you know, you're a guest the first night, and then you're an old friend the second night at a pub. You know, and they know you, and they really appreciate that. And they know, they go, hey, you were here just last night. Suddenly, you're not just a one-off guy that stopped in there because it happened to be the right time to eat, but you went back there because you like the place. And I know what you're talking about, Kevin. I was just in Rome filming for 4 nights, and I could have gone to all sorts of great restaurants and stuff, but I just needed some coziness. And I had the same table in the same little funky restaurant around the corner from my hotel, and they knew where I would sit. And they would, there's your table. You know, it was just, that was my spot. I really was a local.
Oh, that's everything too, right?
You know, I was thinking about,
So tell me, as someone who operates massive tours, you bring how many 30,000 people on a normal year to Europe. All these people have incredible expectations. They're sort of what I was maybe explaining, like, you know, you want to go to Vienna, you're going to do 10 things a day. You have that mentality. How do you, like you said, when people take a tour, they don't just take a European tour, they take a Rick Steves tour. How do you work that into your more dedicated tours of expanding their, not just their knowledge, but also their ability just to relax and have patience in a certain place?
Well, it's a real tough thing because when you sell a tour, for a lot of people, they're not that sophisticated in understanding that there's only 24 hours in a day. And the company that promises the most in 5 days people think that's a better value. No, you've only got so many hours. And the bus drivers call it a pajama tour. Why even get out of your pajamas? You just go, and then go to bed. And, we don't want a pajama tour. But you do have to be efficient and see you got to see the Leaning Tower because you went all the way to Pisa. And you got to see the Botticellis because you're in Florence. And I'm all over that. I really like that. But it needs to be done in an efficient way. And then you get oriented. And then you got some time on your own. The greatest thing is to be away from the group, and not just to be stranded, but to be away from the group and to be capable and confident and glad that you've got a little free time to do your own thing. And a key for us is to stay in locally owned mom and pop kind of places and to eat in mom and pop kind of places. I just love that. And I was just in Rome with a woman who we've been taking our groups to for 20 years. And she came up. And it was COVID. It's been a real tough time for little family-run restaurants. And she gave me a big hug. And she said, for 60 years, I've been serving travelers right here in my little trattoria. And she loves our groups and she can hardly wait. She misses our groups, But there's a real person, a real person. And that's the trick, is to see the Mona Lisa, but to also see a real person and go to a restaurant where you're not just... That's the one thing I didn't like about the Tour de Mont Blanc is everybody going to every guest house and every hotel was a one-night stand. They're in and they're out. They're in and they're out. And they're in and they're out because it's the big route, And I really like to be settled for a few days in a beautiful spot. I was thinking about your rituals and I was wondering, what is it? I mean, because you got to see a lot of things. You're moving around a lot. You're 3 days max, usually on a normal trip in one spot. Unless it's a city like Paris or Rome where you spend a lot more time. But one thing I like to do, and I was really into it in places that have shutters, but I love to open my window in the morning at the hotel. I'm in a little 2-star hotel and it's got one of those old fashioned shutters it's got 6 coats of paint on it and it's kind of flaked off and everything. And you open the shutters and the hinges are creaky and you open it up. And you don't know even what the weather's like. You don't know if there's a market down below you. You don't know if there's pigeons out here or if you can see what they are. And you open that shutter up and you just go, wow, life is good. I'm in Norway. I'm in Greece. I'm in, Egypt. And I'm opening up my shutter and there it is. Every morning I open the shutter and see what's waiting for me.
Opening the shutter sounds like a track that was cut from the Sound of Music soundtrack.
Opening the shutter.
Opening the shutters.
I try not to sing.
Yeah,
that's right. There's so many important. It's just important to be connected. You've got to find ways to do that. Hiking around Mont Blanc, my partner and I just, it was like most of the tourists were hikers were sitting there in the bar having a drink. Let's just go take a walk and be under the stars. And it was one of the highlights. We took a walk at like midnight and just to understand how bright the stars are in the Alps. You could spend a week in the Alps and not notice how bright the stars were. That would be a shame. Yeah. You can be on a cruise ship. In a cruise ship, and you and I have been on plenty of those, there's 3,000 tourists on one big boat. But if you go up late at night to the top deck, you're all alone. It's just you and the wind. Yep. You and the wind and the stars and the reflections on the water and little boats bobbing and coursing through the waves in the distance. And those are some magic moments on a cruise ship, believe it or not. You can find those moments, but they're not going to come to you. And you're certainly not. It just occurred to me I've been in Europe for a month this fall, never turned on the TV once. I just don't know why you go to your hotel room and turn on a TV. I go for 100 days in Europe without turning on the TV. I mean, the only time the TV's on, some hotels have it on as you enter the room. I don't know why that is, but the last thing I need to do is look at a screen when I've got Europe all around me.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, it's either like CNN or BBC. So do you want bad news in an English accent or an American accent or a really British accent? Just like, how do you want your news?
No, thank you. No, thank you.
Kendra made a comment, said, my first time in Europe, first morning in Rome, I opened the shutters. The new song that was cut from the Sound of Music soundtrack. To an old man playing the accordion. It changed her life.
Yeah, because it's just those moments. Yep, great moment.
Those moments. Great moment. You need to make those moments.
All right, let's get going.
Let's make some more. I'm loving the show.
Like incessant thinking, right? What am I going to do today? How am I going to get there? Is it going to rain? Do I need to bring sunscreen? I leave in 3 days. Did my upgrades come through? And I just want my brain to stop.
And the way that I do that is I return to a place that's familiar and it gives me comfort, and then I just relax.
And for so many of us, travel will be about reconnecting with family and friends, and that means more people, more thinking. So for families, I recommend creating a ritual in the afternoon. It has been my extensive experience that no matter the age, everybody has had it by 3 p.m. We are all 4-year-olds, grumpy, hungry, and in need of a nap. So find a nice cafe. Taking time for ice cream is never a bad idea. Then head back to your hotel, rest up, take a nap, and now everyone's refreshed for dinner. But yeah, rituals, they're really important in our daily lives. They are a constant, which becomes a comfort, and that works in travel too. It's okay to seek out comfortable moments, right? And I will say that when I allow myself to be comfortable and more in the moment is when the magic of travel really begins.
Hi, nice
Talking
meet
to
you,
people.
Samantha. So you're part of the family business?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you come here before school?
Yes.
Like what time?
4 o'clock.
Oh, Dad.
Make 'em
Really?
tough.
What is it like living so remotely?
I've always lived remote,
Okay.
so this is not remote for me.
And you travel all over the United States with Magnolia Sisters?
The world, I have to say.
How did the children feel about
We had
that?
good babysitters. They still resent it. They should get over this.
For me, talking to people, connecting with them is the most important part of travel. Travel allows us to meet people face to face, to learn from them, and really care about their experience.
And where are you from?
I'm Ugandan, but I live in London.
I'm originally from India, but living in London now.
Yeah, same. I'm from India, but living in London.
Why did you want to come to this area of Switzerland?
It's calling me. This Switzerland is amazing. I would love to settle here.
Sure, we want to be in awe of incredible architecture. Yes, we want to be overwhelmed by a 5,000-year history of a place, but we also need to relate to a destination on a personal level. And that happens more strongly when we are connecting one-on-one with people.
So you've uncovered these warriors yourself. What does it feel like when you see someone's face looking back at you?
I would like to talk with sculptures. I just want to say a story.
In Places to Love, we spend a lot of valuable airtime showing me in a conversation. And that is completely intentional because I feel that talking to people is something that has slowly been going missing from our daily lives. And this was even before the pandemic. We don't really talk to each other anymore. Instead, we place so much of how we communicate onto social media, and that has done a real number on how we all treat one another. But travel is where we as human beings show up.
So I'm not going to be able to pick that up, Coach G. I'm just telling you right now.
It's okay.
And travel gives us the opportunity to relate to others even in the briefest of encounters. For example, just randomly talking to a stranger.
What are you going for? You're going for the sours, huh?
Yeah, I love sour candy.
Where are you from?
I'm from Massachusetts.
Okay.
It's kind of a family tradition that we always come here, so, and this is the first time like just me and my niece came because I can drive now, so it's kind of a special day for us.
That's wonderful. So this is sort of your rite of passage. You're
Oh, yeah.
independent, you're an adult, and the first thing you do is go to a candy store.
Yeah.
We totally underestimate the benefit of these spontaneous interactions that even for a short amount of time gives us that sense of belonging. And talking to strangers is tough. And of course, we've been told since we were kids that it's dangerous, but you absolutely must go for it, even if there's a language barrier.
They meet here every day?
Every day, in the morning.
In the morning.
In the morning. 8 to about 11.
8 to 11, you dance for 3 hours. That's tiring.
Don't go to the hospital.
And I know how intimidating that is because more so than being a traveler, to me, my job is to communicate with people around the world. And one thing I've learned is that no one on the other side expects you to speak in full sentences or have an ability to conjugate verbs. But what you absolutely must know is how to be polite in another country's language. And just 3 words will get you there. Hello.
All right, I'm just going to stop
it
it
just
there.
occurred to me. It just became really clear why you're such a natural with your TV show and why your show is so endearing. It's just you love talking with people. You're good at it, and everybody's not equally good at it, but everybody can do that. That really is the mark of a good traveler, and that's the mark of a good trip, isn't it?
You know, and I will say I got better at it. I was not good at it. I really wanted to be more of an observer when I first started my job. And I just realized that's not where, that's not where the fun is, right? So it was more like put me in, coach. And just, just like I wanted to connect. And
right.
I know a lot of people ask me, well, but that's easy for you to do because this is your job and maybe it's sort of your job too. But is there a way, Rick, that you kind of break the ice with perfect strangers? And do you feel the same way? For me, the thing I missed most that the pandemic really shone a bright light on is just that spontaneous talking to strangers. I couldn't believe how much I missed and really am fulfilled by meeting people who I will never see again. We've only talked for maybe 3 minutes, and yet it stays with me, and it does give us confidence. And so that's what I missed most from the pandemic. And how do you break the ice? How do you, when you are traveling?
Well, there's 2 kinds of traveling. There's traveling like for real, and there's traveling that you and I have to do with the camera rolling to catch it and bring it home.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's so much easier without a camera rolling, like, oh, ignore that big camera in your face. Let's get real here.
Exactly.
It doesn't work real. But I remember for the first decade for my TV work back in the 1990s, the dreaded command from my producer was, okay, Rick, interact. Interact. And I me? Go talk to them? What am I going to say? So I'd go over there and go, buongiorno. And I just felt so awkward and stupid. But you'd get better at it, I suppose, as you go. But so clearly to me, I spend 100 days a year on a normal year in Europe. A third of the time is researching guidebooks. A third of the time is making TV. And the third of the time is leading the tours. All of that work, how good it is, depends on how you meet people. The mark of a good TV show, how many local voices do we get? Of course, they're going to get your voice and my voice, but a show, one of my shows with only my voice for 25 minutes, that's a drag. You need to get those local voices. I just love it. When you're taking a tour, if you don't arrange it so that, if you come into a beer hall and the group goes, well, where are we going to sit? There's not 24 seats in a row. Well, there's lots of seats. Just go find somebody and make a friend. You can do that. And the same thing, when anybody's traveling. When my son went to Europe when he was 18 with his buddy right after graduating from high school, sort of one generation after that lovely shot that Kevin keeps showing of me. Was the same age. Stand by. There you go. One generation after that, my son went, but the difference is my dad had no idea where I was going. And Andy's son wanted to go over the whole itinerary. And I had lined up all the museums for him to see and all that.
Sorry.
And I lined up all the museums for Andy to see because this was his trip on his own. He came home and he said, Dad, I didn't really go to those museums, but I made friends in every country. And what could I say? But right on. That was a good trip.
I think, you said something really funny. I remember a long time ago about, when you want to, speaking French, you just kind of put on the Inspector Clouseau, persona, and you can really land, how the French speak, incroyable, that. And for me, when learning how to speak with people and just kind of have really great conversations with people, I just remember what the Irish taught me. I mean, I remember going to Ireland for the first time as a young 20-year-old and just being, standing there on the street waiting to cross, and someone would be like, well, now what are you doing? It's raining, isn't it? And being like, are you talking to me? And just striking up a conversation, and then we would have a lovely conversation and go. And so it's like everything I learned on how to make, great small talk that turns into so much more than small talk, I learned from the Irish, because they just, it doesn't have to be earth-shattering. It just has to be, well, I like that. Now aren't you smart having that umbrella with you? And that's it. That's all it takes.
It's so interesting you say that because I'm quite, I err on the side of being too regimented and trying to see too many sites in one day because I'm writing a guidebook and I got to see all these sites. But back when I was a kid traveling, I remember several occasions making friends with an Irish person, realizing, hey, I'm throwing this itinerary out the window. I've got a friend here. And we'd sit down and start talking in their house. And we'd be talking late in the afternoon and it would get dark and nobody would even think to turn on the lights. It got dark. They would go, oh my goodness, we've been here a long time. And I used to love talking so much in Ireland. I would hitchhike in the middle of nowhere, whichever direction the cars were coming. I'd get in when they'd stop and they'd say, where are you going? I said, I don't care, wherever you're going. I just want somebody to talk to.
and they found they're like, yes. Like, we'll sit down now.
Although one time I was on a bus in Ireland, I was on a truck in Ireland. A trucker took me all the way down to the southeast corner of Ireland, Wexford or something like that. And for 2 hours, all I could do was nod because he kept talking and I didn't understand anything. His Irish brogue was so heavy. But Ireland's easy and the United States pretty easy because we have the same language, and we have similar culture. But when I think about it, counterintuitively, the very best connections I've had with people and the most ease connecting with people have been in countries where we're supposed to be seeing our enemies, where our government says they're the bad guys. Cuba, Iran, Palestine, Russia. Going to those countries every day is a festival of people to connections. And I just love there's a lot of values of travel, but one beautiful thing about travel is when we travel and then we meet people in countries like that, it makes it tougher for their propaganda to demonize us. Yeah. And when we come home, it makes it tougher for our propaganda to demonize them. Yeah. So we all humanize each other. And then there's more of an interest in getting to know each other and figuring it out instead of going to war. I just think that's a huge value. That's one reason why Europe has this well-funded program, and it's well-funded in good times and in bad, called Erasmus. And it's a program that pays for teachers and students to work or study in other countries. So when I was filming in Portugal, I was going to go to one of these traditional fraternity houses in Coimbra, the Oxford of Portugal. And I thought I'd be hanging out and drinking beer and kind of getting to know a bunch of students who were Portuguese. It was a United Nations of Europe in that frat house in Portugal, and they're all in the Erasmus program. And just as many Germans and French were there, and the Portuguese were up in Germany getting to know each other. And it's just a beautiful understanding that it is worth getting to know people from other countries.
I think it was like 2012. I was invited to the White House, don't you know? And this way, and it was a group of travelers, like maybe 100, and they were trying to figure out, the administration at the time, the Obama administration, they were forming a student abroad office. And because never before the State Department was a student abroad because they realized that Americans weren't now going abroad and they wanted to find out why. And I'm like, well, the reason why I didn't go abroad as a college kid is my parents could barely afford college. And so they weren't sending me to Europe when they couldn't even afford it here in the United States. So that's one problem, the financial barriers to it. But they saw it absolutely as a national security issue, not a cultural issue. And just like you said, a national security issue. If we are not going to their countries and they're not coming to us, the hatred could spread easier than if we know each other. So I thought that was pretty amazing. And
that is really cool. That is so important.
So I think other people realize that too. So
I'm going to drink to that.
I know, drink to that. Exactly.
I love that idea.
Cheers to Sam name dropping her going to the White House.
Exactly.
Cheers.
Here's to national. Here's our job in national security, Rick.
All right, there you go.
White House credentials. All right.
Sorry, but just being able to say those words will tell someone that, one, I am not from here, but two, I'm still a kind person who, three, is making an effort. You do that, I guarantee you people will go out of their way to respond or help you. So when you plan your travels, make sure to build personal connection into your trip. Even with meeting strangers, you have to make room for that. That's why I like to go for a wander and create a ritual, because you are slowing time down and being more aware of when that opportunity strikes.
Sure, why not? Oh, this way, yeah.
But you can also have deeper connections. You can be taught by an artist.
Isn't that neat? Beautiful.
Take a dance class.
Our friend Daniel just asked, remind us of the 3 words because we kind of interrupted this, and it's please, thank you, and hello, right?
Hello, please, and thank you. Those are the 3 words that I always know in whatever language that I'm, whatever country I'm going to. Those are the 3 words. And then I'll always know how to say, may I please have? Because I feel like we're always asking for things as a traveler. Are there phrases that, as an author of phrase books, are there a few phrases that you always have in your back pocket? Like, say, when you go to Iran, you're not going to Europe and you don't know. And Pakistan and those travels, were there phrases and words that you wanted to know just to show that you were polite and kind?
It's amazing how much you can communicate with somebody that you're just sitting next to on a bus or a train with a few words, not with a sentence, So when you're in Russia, you talk about peace and friendship and truth, druzhba. And one thing that I find handy is, can I take a look? Posso guardare. I love to go into a shop in Italy and just see, is it okay if I snoop around?
Oh, I like that. That's very disarming too. Yeah, for the person
And
like,
then,
oh, yeah, sure.
And I like to compliment. I just say complimenti. I mean, I know, I don't know many, I'm terrible with languages, but, compliments, that's a nice word to say. Compliments
Hey, Rick,
to the chef.
posso codare your personal photos. I'm just going to take a snoop.
You can look at whatever you got there.
Nice. Yeah, feels good.
This here is one of my most favorite trees. It's the Western red cedar.
Listen to a conservationist.
What our people sought to practice was sustainable harvest. So you would take several planks from several trees and allow the tree to live.
So you're just taking sections of the tree, build your home, and the tree could go on.
The forest allowed us to have a really good life.
Go on a walking tour with a great guide.
This is a Viva Amore. It means long live love in Italian, and it's a Mark de Suvero piece.
When you told me the title, I would not have thought this is about love.
It is a representation of love. It's got everything in it.
It needs to be supported, right? Or it doesn't go on.
Yes.
Seek out experiences where getting to know a person and their passion is as important as the thing you are learning about.
When do we gossip?
When do we not gossip?
In meeting and talking to a lot of you, I know that planning travel is a big challenge. It's so overwhelming because there is an endless amount of information out there, and you could spend hours online researching a trip and be even less convinced about what you should do. But a question I always ask myself as we zero in on each segment of an episode is, what is the emotional value of being here? And with this one question, I get to a more personal reason of why we should or shouldn't do something. In some places, that's a really easy question to answer, like when you're at the U.S. Space and Rocket Center in Huntsville, Alabama, standing under a model of the Saturn V rocket, the one that brought man to the moon. And it's a half a city block long with 5 engines, each as big as a car. And even though it's 2018, all you are thinking is, this is never gonna work. And then it hits you that, oh my gosh, it did work. And now we are headed to Mars. And it's science and it's history and it's optimism for our future. And it's just total emotional value. And then there are cathedrals. Now, I've seen a lot of cathedrals in my time, and they're usually in the heart of the city. And of course, the architecture and the history is fascinating. But I've always wondered, for those of us who are not Catholic, how can we emotionally connect with a cathedral? And it was asking this question in Strasbourg, France, that allowed us to find a deeply meaningful experience that wasn't on any top 5 or top 10 list of things to do when visiting the city.
So these are the stone carvers.
Yes.
In the building of cathedrals, they take 300, 400, 500 years
Do they have a deadline?
On a un temps pour chaque pièce qu'on réalise.
The work on the cathedral is always going on. It will never finish. You always have to do a conservation work to maintain the cathedral on the best way. Once you're around, you have to start again.
all over again? You have a job for life.
But what ultimately the question, what is the emotional value of being here, does is it steers you away from listing all the things you want to see and do, to really asking yourself, how do I want to feel? Because the emotional value of travel is everything. It strengthens the bonds of families and friendships. It reinforces our own sense of self, and this is a value that grows years, decades, after one single trip has been taken, so that travel is absolutely an investment in your life. One of the best things I ever heard about the benefits of travel came from a child psychologist who told a group of us that memories of travel for a kid are stronger than other really important memories in their lives, like their own birthdays and graduations. And one of the reasons why this is so is that when you travel with children, it allows your kid to see you be a kid.
Look at Mama!
And what that does for a child's sense of love and security. And these memories become the building blocks of a family's foundation that go on to support that family through tough times. And we have all gone through a really tough time. We've gone through a time where grandparents were instantly cut off from their grandkids, where parents, so stressed, so overwhelmed, haven't been able to lighten up. So, when you finally get to travel again, and from here on out, look for what is delightful.
Go!
Find activities that require nothing of you other than to be tickled pink. So, yeah, look for the delight. And delight can be found doing the simple things that people do every day in another place. In Bern, Switzerland, after work, the locals head to the river and even use it to commute home.
I feel like I'm 15 years old again.
In Texas, they go dancing, not once a year or at a wedding, but every week. In China's public parks, you'll find kite clubs where they fly everything from handmade tiny butterflies to a 100-foot train.
Oh my gosh! Wow!
And in every instance, the locals are more than happy to share their passions with you, and everyday life becomes more meaningful.
Mr. Lee! Shay Shay! Shay Shay!
Travel counts in our life so much more than we know. And it counts whether we've gone far, far away or stayed closer to home, whether we are with 15 members of our extended family or totally solo. Travel is one of the few things that we have that mark a fresh start, provide a new beginning, and we are all on this crazy human journey to understand ourselves, to be better than we thought, and nothing gives us that opportunity like travel.
Thank you for one of the best days of my life. This was truly fantastic.
Thank you for your visit.
Oh, I miss,
Wow.
you know, when I look at those, I just miss just being, like you said, confounded and confused. But, you know, like just being with the kite club, I had no language, right? We had nothing other than just, I loved being there. They could see that the kites were incredible. They don't sell those kites. It was just literally a kite club that made all the kites and got together. And they allowed us to be there with our cameras. And, it breaks my heart sometimes. I'm like, I don't know when the next time I'm going to be able to go to China is, you know, it's just, you know, who knows? Europe is certainly much closer. But yeah, we're so lucky to do what we do.
I think we're all saying the same thing right now.
It's so true. That's where travel is. It just gets us right here. Oh gosh.
It's a beautiful thing. It's, it's so funny that during COVID, you had this desire to make a show like that. And so did I. We want people to be able to travel. We need to travel. It's in our blood, And I love this show, Samantha and Kevin. Congratulations. It's gorgeous. It's an anthem. It's a love note to travel, and it's just so beautiful. And any of us who have traveled a lot, we can relate to that. Kevin, do you have that? I gave you just like a 3-minute little clip.
Yeah.
Because
and now we're going to hear from Rick. Yeah. Because you've heard from
your
me.
finale there, Sam. It's just, I miss seeing you because we used to see each other in these gigs around the country, these travel shows, but I haven't really seen you for 2 years except on the computer screen.
I've seen you in rectangles now.
But Kevin, if you got a chance to show this, it's just, you could take Sam's last 3 minutes and put it on my show, or you could take my last 3 minutes and put it on your show. And it came from our hearts and our love of travel. And I just think it's
so important. I'm going to play. I won't be able to have Sam and I in the shot, but I'll have you in the
By traveling thoughtfully, we connect. Even for those of us who can only travel as a state of mind, travel can result in a deeper connection. Travel connects us face to face with reality. It's not virtual. It's not through a viewfinder. Travel is candid, honest, being in the moment. Okay? Thank you. In a world hungry for authenticity, we yearn for connection.
But now she's quite big. She's like you, about like that, yeah.
Travelers connect with different cultures, different people. On the road, strangers are just friends we've yet to meet. Travel frees us from routine. It creates room for serendipity.
Okay, so now I'm ready to be a shepherd.
Serendipity leads to connections. Travel forces us to bend and to flex. It makes us more tolerant and inspires us to celebrate diversity. The lessons I've gained from exploring Europe, the land of my heritage, are universal. For me, these lessons are affirmed and then stretched when traveling further afield. As a child ventures beyond his backyard, I ventured beyond Europe. Year after year, I pushed my boundaries. The world opened wide with a montage of wonders and lessons learned. Traveling beyond my comfort zone, culture shock became constructive. The growing pains of a broadening perspective, my ethnocentrism challenged. The celebration of difference and oneness at the same time. The recognition that love is love in their home just as in mine.
I think this is a beautiful, beautiful welcome here.
Through travel, we see a world filled with joy, with compassion, and with good people. We learn the more we reach out, the more we receive. We learn that we all share the same world.
Nice.
And we all share the same window of time. Travelers seek bridges rather than walls. Every wall has two sides and two narratives. For one to be truly understood, both must be heard. Traveling, we realize the challenges of our future will be blind to borders and best overcome not by conflict and walls, but by community and bridges. There's so much fear these days. The flip side of fear? It's understanding. And we gain understanding when we travel.
What is this? The celebration of Obama's...
Travel is more than a holiday. It gives us new experiences, acts as our greatest teacher, makes our lives more meaningful, and connects us with a global family. We can't all travel physically, but anyone can live with a traveler's mindset. It's a choice. Travel makes us more comfortable with the world, our hearts bigger, and our lives richer. And it makes us happier. And that is why we travel.
Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah. I love what you said. It's the flip side of fear. because it is for me. It's absolutely been that. It's very easy to have fear of people and or a place and think that the other, that otherness. But when you meet people, you realize, oh, we're very, very much alike. You just have much better booze and food.
Speaking of booze, Rick, I'm going to join you. I got some Pernod here to join you in your raki, your ouzo.
I don't even know what that is.
Oh, right. I've been enjoying this ouzo, because we've been on the road. And a cool thing about these faraway drinks is they take you back there. They stoke those little memories, don't they?
Oh, mine's cloudy too.
Oh, look at this. Is
Pernod
like an ouzo?
Yeah. Never do that over a laptop.
It's the French.
I was close. I got just a drop on my keyboard, but we're good. Cheers.
Oh, good, Kevin. Cheers. Thanks so much for having me with you guys.
Oh, it's been wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
So we have a lot of questions and a lot of comments.
Yeah.
And
So we'll get to the...
Oh,
I'm
let's
beginning
get
to
to
think,
it.
I'm beginning to think the 1,000 people that have been watching tonight kind of like you two. I'm beginning to think that. Just a observation.
We keep threatening to make TV shows about travel.
Yeah. The first comment, our good friend Corey Lee, this was his favorite episode.
Oh, thank you very much, Corey.
Oh, thanks, Corey.
Appreciate
Cool.
that. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Well, every time you come on my show, it's a hit too. So this is great.
Aaron's like the Olympic of travel show hosts. I mean, they're all gold medalists. I mean, in this case, you both get a gold medal. That's the kind of night
We're
it is.
Team USA. But we want to be on everyone's team.
Tied for first.
We have a famous pillow fight, Sam. We got to show them the pillow fight.
We got to show them the famous pillow fight. I don't know who brought it up, but I love the fact that both of us were willing to do this. And I think the people of Create just kind of stood back and let us.
And there we go, Kevin. Oh my goodness. I didn't know you had that queued up. Look at you.
I love that look. Look at that non-Rick Steves look.
That's a champion right there.
Exactly. Now you see the real Rick
I had the
Steves
tiger.
And the real Samantha Brown
going in
there.
Going
for
low.
the low. Chopping you down like a tree.
Okay, I'm going to get you from the top here.
Yeah, chopping you down like a nice Norwegian spruce. And then you just
I know when I'm beat here. Oh my goodness.
That was so much fun. I love that. That was just for a little background. We were at like an APT, American Public Television. In Salt Lake City, and we were doing interviews, and it was all very learned and we were just like, let's have a pillow fight.
I picked the wrong. Sorry.
Yeah, that was kind of random, but it was we needed to, and we were celebrating public television there. It was just great.
Yeah.
So Rick, I feel like you've probably met Angel Castellanos at some of the various travel adventure shows.
Angel's great.
He's got a bit of, I think the authorities might be after him, but he used to bootleg your VHS videos in the library. So you can memorize them.
I used to have a little 5-banger where I could do one master and copy 5 copies and send these copies of my lectures in the old days to people. And people like Angel were teaching my classes. We had something called the European Travel Resource Centers around the country. And it was so, when I think back on it, we were mailing people Kodak carousels of slides to show in their community.
Oh my gosh.
Angel's a good example. He's a great teacher of travel, and there are people who are evangelical about the value of travel, and it's more important now than ever. Hey, Angel, I love Angel's travels and his lectures. Yeah.
We're going a bit out of order because these are just kind of queued up ones, but we're just talking about the Swiss wine that Tim Martin mentioned. There's a wine shop in New York on Park Avenue that does sell Swiss wine. But I got to say, Rick, the next time you're in New York, I had a meeting with some friends of mine from Switzerland just a month ago. There in the West Village, there's a Swiss-owned fondue restaurant that has an extensive menu of Swiss wine.
Oh, well, we gotta
so
go.
We're going to go there next time you're in town,
New York,
Rick.
we're taking Rick Steves.
I'd love to.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about that is your clothes smell like cheese for days after that.
For days.
It's just wonderful.
For days.
It's a win-win.
Yeah.
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah. Jim Elfering asked if you've published this Caminos de Santiago guidebook.
Nope. It takes 30 days to hike from the Pyrenees to Santiago de Compostela to do that hike, and I'd love to do it, but that's a different kind of travel. I've got a friend who actually writes a guidebook for that, Sandy Brown, and Cicerone Publications, and it's really good. But boy, I would, these long distance hikes are popular in Europe. The one I did was sort of a little bit of a pilgrimage for me, just to see what my body could do day after day. And, my friend was busy organizing a playlist so he could listen to music as he hiked. And I was out there hiking for 8 hours a day, and the last thing I ever wanted was a soundtrack other than the nature I was surrounded in.
Yeah.
Just gorgeous.
Even Open the Shutters, your favorite song that was cut from Sound of Music?
We got to do that. Open the shutters.
When I'm feeling down,
Hey,
I open the shutters. Open
Jim
the
was
shutters.
asking about, have you published a book? Samantha, I bet you don't know about this book.
Oh, the hippie. That's Afghanistan, right? Your Istanbul to
Istanbul to
Kathmandu.
Afghanistan.
Oh my God! Is that a picture of yours? That cover?
That's amazing.
Did you take that
Yes, it
picture?
is.
Is that part of your?
I
Oh
did.
my!
I took that picture in 1978 at the border of Afghanistan.
Oh,
and that last clip, I had a bunch of my journals there that I wrote before I ever wrote any guidebooks. I was just a crazy journal writer in my earlier travels.
Yeah.
And I read the trip to after the fall of Afghanistan just a couple months ago. I was really into that, and I read about my trip as I was 19. It was 23 years old from Istanbul to Kathmandu. That was the coming of age trip for me. It's 60,000 words. It's a 180-page book. And it's like an anthropological dig into a 23-year-old character named Rick Steves. I didn't even know. I mean, it was so long ago. And this is just a mock-up. The book will come out in a couple of months.
This
and
Rick
it's only
Steves.
going to be available. That 5 years later.
5 years later.
Yeah, but that was the amazing experience. But even today, I love it when I meet young people who are having these coming-of-age trips. Where whatever hemisphere, whatever continent, biking across the United States. Hiking, I've got a friend whose daughter just hiked from the border of Mexico to the border of Canada up the Pacific Crest Trail.
Wow.
I mean, people are doing great things.
Yeah.
And they come home saying the world's not dangerous and scary. They come home thinking the world's filled with what they call trail angels or whatever, people that help you out. Of course, you got to be careful. You don't want to be reckless, but we need to get out and get to know the world. It's so important. And your show inspires people. You make it accessible, Sam, and that's what I really love in Kevin, the way you produce these shows. Wow, it's so important, and I'm so thankful you're in public television because we're getting that beautiful exposure and turning people onto this.
Yeah.
George Brewster asked if either you're doing in-person travel shows for this year, and I know Samantha's supposed to be speaking in Boston and New York and Denver, somewhere else, but Samantha does awesome hour-long talks, and Rick does too, although Rick's usually end up being almost 2 hours and we have to pull him off the stage because the worst thing you can be is the person speaking directly after Rick Steves, because you literally have to tell him, get your ass off the stage, Rick Steves. National treasure, Rick Steves.
And then you have to wait for all those people to go to the bathroom and come back and watch you.
Sir Rick Steves.
You'll have no audience for like a good 20 minutes.
Getteth the butt off stage.
Are you doing any of the shows, Rick, this year? Are you doing any of them?
No. My appetite for giving talks to masses of people in a mosh pit of people to sign books afterwards, I want to be comfortable when I do that. I just gave a talk in Santa Fe. It was my first time on a stage in 2 years to 500 state legislators, governors, mayors, senators, and so on. It was the Conference of State Governments, and it was cool because it was Democrats and Republicans, 50-50, with the mission of working together for the common good. And I was kind of depressed as I went into it, and then I was inspired. There's people on both sides of the aisle that realize we got to get it together here. We've got a lot in common, and we can make a big difference, and we need good governance. So I gave that, but right now, just like you, it's heartbreaking. All these people have waited and put off the event and put off the event. Yeah. I've got this symphony that I do. It's called a symphonic journey, where we drop down in 7 different countries in Europe.
I love that.
Show beautiful images, and the orchestra plays these wonderful anthems from the 19th century, and I get to set it up like a tour guide. And I'm booked to go to Minneapolis and do that in February, and I'm just dreading the email I'm about to get, I think, as they have to put that off because they've waited for years to do this.
Yeah.
Well, the reason I brought it up, and that was a comment someone asked, is that Samantha, when you do your talks, you talk, and you mentioned it in this show about the idea of time, and there's 3 things travelers typically value or affect travel. Is time and money is the first 2, which are kind of obvious. How much time do you have to go on vacation? How much money do you have to go on this trip? But the third one, I think you could spend an hour talking about, is confidence. And you both were talking about that, is that the confidence to put yourself out there, and in a maybe in a place that you would maybe not be 100% comfortable with, not necessarily dangerous, just uncomfortable. Maybe I don't speak the language. Maybe I don't like seafood, and every restaurant's a seafood restaurant. Whatever uncomfortable for you could be manifest itself that way. But
I like that.
what you learn from that as a traveler is priceless, I think.
Yeah. I think
That's the growing
that is a
pains
key.
of a-
Yeah, that's say that
Did I-
again. 'Cause
did I-
that's the growing pains
yeah.
of
Of a broadening perspective.
broadening perspective, and it's so true.
It's a
So
beautiful
you have to
thing.
lean into that. Yeah, you really do.
You
And
got it.
it
You
is
got it.
uncomfortable, but it means things are happening. Brains are getting rewired. You don't
That's
know
what
everything.
not to keep harping on a book that's not for sale, but this is, when I read this was before I was a travel writer. This was just I was the world was my playground, and this is that coming of age trip where people realize this world's a big place. The United States is 4% of the planet. There's 96% out there, and we can get to know it. And there's two kinds of people, really: the people that are afraid of the world and the people that love the world. And it's a shame if somebody can't get out there and celebrate the world in all its diversity. Diversity is an important theme lately. And when you travel well, you celebrate diversity. And part of that, like Kevin was saying, is going to places that make food that is not your cup of tea. And, if you're just not into Rocky, or if you're just not into Ouzo, well, sip it and smile.
And then become a big fan of
Sip it
Rocky.
and smile. That's so
I like
true.
that. I can write that down. So, I used to have when I was an early tour guide, I'd say, if something's not to your liking, change your liking. And it works, you change your liking. Like it. You don't need to take it home, but while you're here, you're going to be drinking
You're
that.
gonna like it. Yeah.
So we have a lot of awesome questions. So they're kind of all out of order. I apologize, but Gretchen is asking Rick, you travel usually through Europe. What's your favorite U.S. city?
It's pathetic how little I've traveled except for Europe. I'm a workaholic. I've got this amazing platform. I've got 50 guidebooks. I just love going to Europe. It's my whole thing. But when I travel in the U.S., I've traveled a lot, but I just go to TV stations and help out during pledge drives. But New Orleans, and I know, Sam, you guys know New Orleans.
Wow.
I love New Orleans. It's a great place. Everything about New Orleans except for the mugginess and the heat. I'm in the right climate here in Seattle. I love drizzle.
We're hoping to
you
do
love drizzle.
I love
That's why you love Europe.
I think I was a salamander in a previous life.
A newt.
I live in a terrarium. Here.
We're actually we're hoping to be doing a show in New Orleans this year, actually.
Yeah. New Orleans is amazing because it's in the United States, but it's not of the United States, right? So you really get this cultural punch of just holy mackerel, just a different
That's a good way
world.
to push it.
This is one for.
I often wonder. I often wonder, am I missing out on something? Because right now, I'm sitting on a little bluff overlooking Puget Sound, the Olympic Mountains, and right there is my junior high school. I can still look out my window and see my junior high school. So I really haven't traveled that far. I mean, I leave, but I always come back. I just love living here in the Puget Sound.
Speaking of the people at Edmonds, Washington, those kids in junior high school can see Rick Steves' house.
I can see Rick Steves from my house.
and what that means, as far as you work hard and you become awesome at what you do, and you can be like Rick Steves.
Yeah,
that's an important lesson.
But it's
for
also
me.
comfort.
Inspiration.
Yeah, I think
that's great. Yeah. Well, there's something to that. If you've got a real solid love of your home, it's easier to leave it and come back. And then also, when you go far away, you learn about your home by looking at it from a distance, and you realize what a beautiful place it is. I think that's kind of a nice advantage, or a nice extra benefit about travel.
Our friend Stacey Haas, this is more for Sam, but Stacey, our friend, she's a producer, a TV producer, saying, come to Houston, you get a taste of culture in a more friendly, more comfortable environment. Our Indian community, because I think we were talking about something about India earlier, is so friendly. Well, a little bit of foreshadowing, Stacey. We went back to Houston this season.
We love Houston.
It's the first city we've gone back to in the United States because we love it so much. And we featured the Mandir.
The Mandir.
Which is an Indian temple. Indian,
Isn't it famous for having like more ethnic groups represented than almost any other city or something like that?
There's no one majority there. So there's no one majority, and which is incredible. And then it's also the number one refugee
like political
city. Political refugees. They come to Houston first. That's sort of the intake. And then so just how that, creates a city that's phenomenally culturally vibrant, and all these cultures exist, and then you also have incredible history from Juneteenth, when slavery was finally pronounced at the emancipation. Of course, it got to Texas a little later. They all came up from Galveston to Houston. Most of them to settle, and they've created incredible. So it's just like there's American history, there's international history. It's this phenomenal melting pot, to be totally cliche, but yeah.
And that's quite a compliment to a city for a TV producer like you guys to go back for a second hit. You know,
well, we felt
I always
yeah.
It's so interesting to me because I got to write a script, and I kind of do greatest hits kind of. I mean, when I go to Copenhagen, I've got 3,000 words in 30 minutes. This has got to be the best look at Copenhagen, like a guidebook you'd watch. I think it's a little bit different because your mission is to find little human dimensions as well as the sights and so on. And when I do a certain city, half an hour, that's good. You know, Belfast, great. Covered. Don't need to go back. I mean, I love Belfast, but you go to London or Paris or Rome and you do that best hits and then you say, okay, we take that off the table. What's left? You can do another show. And it's like, nobody's going to think that's the second show. It's so good.
Exactly.
And there's a couple of cities where I can do 3 shows, but for Houston to be 2, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Hey, we were talking earlier, our friend Joe Fune did that shaving thing in Turkey.
Oh, amazing experience,
especially the
fire.
I don't think you need that part, especially the fire.
How did it feel? Do you feel like that there's heat, or is it just?
It feels like when you push your hands through a flame, it's it's more exciting than it is hot. But when you're done, the question is, how does your skin feel when you're done? Like right now, I could use a flame, you know. But
the answer,
it's burn. Like they say, soft as a baby's bottom. This is after the flame. It's soft. 2 days later, it's still soft as a baby's bottom.
Wow.
I remember that. I remember because you feel your beard 24 hours later. After the flame shave, 24 hours later, you're still going, are you guys going to come back? You know?
Wow. Our great friend, and not only our great friend, but Rick's friend as well, Michaela Malazzi, who has an awesome show on public television called Barefoot Travel, or Bare Feet Travel.
Michaela, I love Michaela.
Yeah.
You got all the cool people coming to your
awesome.
Facebook
but
thing.
She said, I think a lot of people are saying this is a beautiful episode and exactly what we needed this year.
Thank you, Michaela.
Good. Well,
every year, and I haven't personally thanked you, Michaela, and I want to do it right now on Facebook Live. It's very true. Michaela's mother makes me her grandmother's cookies, her Italian wedding cookies, which are my absolute favorite cookie, and so I've gotten them twice now for Christmas time. And thank you so much. I sat down because it was tough before Christmas with all the COVID scares, school, everything. We're trying to get a show produced. And just to sit down with your mother, our Nona's cookies, and a big cup of coffee.
Nice.
Thank you so much, Michaela. We've got good friends.
You know, Sam, I was on Michaela's streaming Facebook show. She does a cool show also. And we had so much fun talking about music because that's what Michaela's into. And I didn't realize there's so much music in you pick up so many ideas about music because nobody had ever interviewed me about music. So then is it called World Cafe? It's a podcast for NPR. Yes. They interviewed me a couple months ago. Yeah. And we talked a whole hour about music, and it was just a wonderful chance to share the love of music in your travels. Yeah. And on my Facebook page at Rick Steves on Facebook, just a couple of days ago, we posted that World Cafe podcast, which is there in my ideas about the music you encounter while traveling through Europe. There's so much. It's a whole dimension of your travels that you might miss otherwise.
Totally miss. And we actually featured that when we were in Budapest. Joshua Bell, the violinist. Thank you. Sorry, I haven't been drinking ouzo, but it's hard. The violinist. He's a prodigy violinist at the age of 4, but he's American and he does a lot of PBS specials. And he was playing in Budapest, and he composed all the music for the Red Violin, the movie. And he was talking about the fact that wherever he goes to see what that music is, to the underground, not clubs or so, but the folk music, and seeks them out. Yeah. And I found that so refreshing because I feel like so much of what we do gets really centered around food. Everyone's very food centric, and that's great, but it really leaves out a huge swath of what's interesting about travel. So I love the fact that he in the same way people approach food with travel, where, you know, you go to the street food, maybe you go to the food trucks, or you go to, you know, the food
Right.
carts on the street in Mexico, and then you go to an upscale meal. He does that with music. He goes to like the cool, like, you know, like folk clubs, but then he sees maybe a symphony, or, and I just love, I'm like, I never ever thought of that, and I love that approach. So I would like to bring it more into my travels, of really understanding the music of those the countries as well.
There's so many dimensions to travel. I mean, you could,
So
you know,
many.
and that's what I like, you know, in our tour program, every one of our guides has a different passion. Some are musicians, some are gourmet
Yeah.
chefs, some are
Ah.
sommeliers, some are historians, you know, some are into art. And I really don't care which is your passion. Just find a passion and celebrate
exactly.
it, you know. It's just cool.
Exactly. When we were in Houston, just to bring back Houston, we found a passionate group of roller skaters. So Rick, in the pandemic, actually roller skating never went away, but it really came back because it was a way to get out and be with a community of people. Now, growing up in the 80s, I was a very good roller skater, and I loved to roller skate. And so I joined this group of roller skaters. I had my own roller skates made, and we danced, and they put on music, and it was so much fun. And that's the way. And then they said whenever they travel to different cities, they find the different places to roller skate and the roller skate groups that are out there. I'm like, this is brilliant. And it reminded me of Paris. Paris has Pararoller. So what is that? I think it's like the first Tuesday of every month or something like that. They shut down some of the streets of Paris, and you meet under the Eiffel Tower, and it's more rollerblading, but they rollerblade through the streets of Paris at night.
They
And
shut
so-
down a bunch of streets. It's great. And
it is
the traveler needs to take the initiative to find out when those things are, because if you're
They
a rollerblader and you see that, you go, why didn't I know I want to be part
wanna
of
do
that?
that. Exactly.
And you could, but you needed to be prepared. So there is that. You got to be a good student. A lot of people just kind of go over there and float around, where, you know, you can make a case for that. But I'm a little bit more, okay, if you do your studying, you'll get a bigger reward. And then you'll be there roller skating down the Champs-Élysées. That is amazing.
Exactly.
Wow. We were filming, and we were in a taxi, and we were trying to get ahead of the roller skaters. It was like a Keystone's Cop comedy. You know what that's like. Okay, down there, 2 more, turn left. There's a red light. The roller skaters go back. Now we've got to go 6 more blocks. Okay, get the rollerbladers. Okay, maybe they're going this way. And we finally got the rollerbladers, and it was a great little bit.
Back to some awesome questions. Martha says that she always tries to find a synagogue wherever she goes, and asked when they were in Vancouver if they wouldn't mind stopping at one there. And she went in and thanked us. She wasn't Jewish, but was amazed by what the taxi driver learned taking her there. That's
What do
great.
you mean? That she
What the
went
taxi
in
driver-
and with
Yeah,
us?
I mean the taxi driver went in with them to see the
nice.
Oh,
synagogue.
even the taxi driver
Yeah,
wanted to
it's
go
like, well, I'm
in.
going to check that out too.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
really awesome.
wonderful.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's a cool cabbie. Yeah. Anywhere you go, you go to the house of worship, whether it's a church or a synagogue or a mosque or a temple. And the trick is to go there totally, not that you're going to convert, but to go there with total respect for that culture's attempt to get close to God. And if you do that, and it took me a while to learn that, but it's a beautiful thing. And you were talking about in some of the points you made in your show. And to me, that's a beautiful, because, you know, whether you like it or not, everywhere you go, there's going to be these big houses of worship, and they're open and they're free and they're full of art. And you're going to go in there and you might just go, where's the Pietà? Or you might go like, okay, that's an icon. But if you can take a moment and imagine, I was sitting in a huge mosque in Tehran, and to be there and to think of it as a TV producer, we could have cut it in a fearful kind of way, you know, as like we usually do when we talk about Iran. We cut it in a beautiful way, as if you were going to a church service. And it was just how we wanted to cut it. But it was a beautiful thing. It was a community coming together, and it was a bunch of real people. And I just love that in your travels. And for people that miss that, so that's a beautiful idea, Martha, is just whatever you're interested in, be confident that you're welcome in there if you're respectful.
Yeah, and that's in our season 5, more so than any other season, we visited a lot of places of worship, a lot of religious homes. So we were at a cloistered abbey of monks in Genesee River Valley of upstate New York, and talking to them about contemplation and isolation. We were with a 125-year-old Antioch Baptist Church that was founded 4 months after the emancipation of slavery. We were with the Mandir, the people of the Mandir.
In Houston.
And it was just understanding beliefs. And in all places, they absolutely, even the cloistered monks, you are invited to be here. We welcome the community.
You're more than welcome.
You are
People
more
often
than
ask,
welcome. Is it
like,
okay?
Is it okay to be here? Of course it's okay to
Yes.
be here.
We understand,
just,
even if you don't believe, even like she said, she's not Jewish. It is understanding one another and what holds true for people. I'm not religious, so I love to learn from all, really.
I love to just respect things I don't understand, because there's a lot of smart people that I don't get, and I'd love to get closer to what makes them tick.
Exactly.
I'm a Lutheran, and for years I went to St. Peter's Cathedral as an angry Protestant, and I just thought I was miserable every time I went to St. Peter's Basilica at the Vatican. I just
so you're like, it's okay. It's all right.
I'm pissed off, And then I finally learned to park my Lutheran sword at the door and go in as a temporary Roman Catholic. I learned that about 15, 20 years ago. And it's a delightful experience,
Yeah.
And you can do that you can do that in any number of ways around the world, and things just go a lot better. If you can put yourself in the mindset, in the historic context or the cultural context or the spiritual context, as best we can. Another dimension of that is getting, like, you go into something, and what was it like 500 years ago? When all of a sudden they had a printing press. And where all of a sudden important stuff was printed, not in Latin, where only the elites could get it and then spoon feed it to you, but in the local language. And it was affordable and more people could read. What was that like? I mean, we don't understand that from a 21st century perspective. Go back to a 15th century perspective, and then you realize why Gutenberg was so important, and these different people that were sharing these ideas. That's a whole extra dimension of travel that just makes it even more rewarding. And as travel teachers, that's what we can inspire and equip people to do.
We're running out of time, but I think Charles Kyler probably has the best advice from anything we talked about tonight. If a local invites you to a meal, you go.
You go. You go.
That is words to live by. Or if a local wants to buy you,
most simple thing. If someone asks you to go to their home, and there was a Lori Fiore was in Abruzzo and passed the farm and started talking to the owner and brought us in for some homemade wine to meet his family. And I think we've all, as travelers, we've all had these experiences. And I think and both of you said tonight in different ways, is just keeping yourself open to accepting those experiences is probably the most challenging thing, that you just keep yourself mentally and spiritually open to let those things happen.
And even a little broader than the meal, if an opportunity presents itself, say yes. I mean, within reason. But I mean, there's so many times when you go, oh no, we didn't have that planned, or oh no, I don't know. But those are the moments. We call it the positive serendipity. It's just those are the things you remember 20 years later.
Exactly. That's what you remember.
It's so much fun to be with you guys. This has just been a delight. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, you're kind of a big deal. And so we're so excited that you joined us tonight. I would love to see you in person, and I can't wait. Yeah. I can't believe it's still another year, but we'll manage.
We're getting a double dose of each other. Next Monday, you're going to be in my court for Monday Night Travel. And that's a free party we have every Monday night. Anybody that wants to join us, we're going to do the same thing we did tonight. So fair warning, it's just we're going to look at the same video. But I'm so excited to have you back for that, because this is just so important what we're talking about. But if people do want to join us, next Monday, there's 2 shows, and it's the Samantha Brown Show.
And just to be clear, you have to register on your website to do that, right, Rick?
Yeah, it's free, and there's plenty of seats, but go to ricksteves.com, and right there on the homepage, there's a tab. Click on Monday Night Travel, and you can even see the show Sam and I did last year there. It's just in our archives. But if you want to see us, we're going to have a lot of fun, so that'll be cool.
Great.
Good.
And I'm going to put you on the spot, Rick. You and I had a really interesting conversation. I feel like it was in May of last year when the epidemic was roaring, and we had this idea that one day, wouldn't it be great to have you and Samantha do a show together. And we had like the seeds of a conversation, and we both thought it was too early to really get into it. But I'm putting you on the spot. I want that on behalf of everyone watching tonight, that to happen. And I don't know how that's going to work, and we'll figure it out. But I think America wants to see Rick and Sam travel together.
America wants to, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The king and queen of travel, and
the king and queen. Whoa, Sam, that's pretty high.
National security.
And we have Sir Rick Steves with us.
Well, what we've done during COVID with you just saw the last 3 minutes of Mike's sort of COVID love note to travel. We're inspired to try to encourage our neighbors to get out there and embrace the world. And if Sam and I can, and like you've done with your beautiful show, Tips to Make Travel Count. I love that. Tips to Make Travel Count. If we could figure out a way to do that and make a festival out of it, I think, assuming APT would like it and would work on public television, I think it'd be
I think they would like it.
I think they would like it.
Of all the things I worry about, I'm not worried about APT liking it.
We could do that, or we could recreate the pillow fight. What would you like?
It took me a long time to recover in many ways from that pillow fight. I think that makes sense. All right. Hey,
Rick,
happy travels to both of you.
I'm so glad we get to see each other next week as well. Happy New Year, and see you soon.
Great. Okay, thank you, Rick.
Ciao.
Appreciate it.
Ciao.
Wow.
Always great.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Always makes me feel good. And it's not just the Swiss wine talking.
No. Or the French pastis.
No, I mean, really great friends. And we love seeing all of you tonight. Daniel, of course, Angel, Michaela, Cindy, Scaglione, Vera, Tucker.
Our friend Francis.
The Sam and Rick Power Hour.
Power Hour.
Absolutely.
Power 2 hours,
Francis
actually.
Francis is here.
Yeah.
Hi, Francis. Just good people. And I love the fact that, and Rick has felt this too, that, there was a moment like in 2019 where we thought, oh boy, oh wow, okay, no one's going to want to travel. No one's going to want to really talk about it. It's just going to bring up, it's always going to be awkward because we never really, things are still uncertain, and we haven't felt a dip in anyone's passion for travel. It's really only made it stronger. And just seeing all of our friends tonight who have been with us almost since the beginning when we started in our kitchen in upstate New York of like,
literally using your phone like this, trying to.
Yeah. But I think there's so many positive things about travel happening right now. And I know actually I forgot to bring up with Rick what I loved when the little Twitter thing that, I think, Rick, if you're still watching, there was a funny thing I heard on Instagram where it said the Omicron virus is from the Omicron region of France. And you only have Omicron if you get it from France. Everything else is just sparkling COVID. And I just thought that was so funny. But clearly, there's uncertainty out there. But what is totally certain is our love for travel. And no one has become jaded, right? Everyone's just waiting to try to get in, and people have tried, and they've had amazing trips. And
we had a great time in France. We spent a week with David Dean.
We had a phenomenal time in France. It is so worth going, and people think that when you travel abroad that it's going to be dangerous, and it's so not. They wear masks, right? If you go to the museums, it's all timed entry. It's easy to enjoy life. It's remarkably normal, and if there are like restrictions, and there are protocols that you have to follow.
Big deal.
And you just follow them, and it's
have a great time.
Yeah. And so I've always been amazed by that. No matter where I go, this feeling of this is pretty normal. Okay, right. Great. So I feel like, there are people who have never stopped traveling, and then there are people who are still really experiencing a lot of trepidation. And for them, I just say, just stay closer to home, but don't stop traveling. If you can drive to a destination, drive to it. If the airlines have got you a little freaked out, don't plan anything yet. You can wait a few months. You can wait. There's no need to get filled with anxiety right now about travel. Do what you feel you can do and still have a great time, and then revisit things in a month or 2 months from now. I guarantee you in 2 months things will change greatly of just how we move forward, even from the Omicron virus. But we've all
That's a
adapted.
fancy virus right there.
Yeah, we've all adapted so well, and we're out there. So that's my 2 cents, because I know there's a lot of just because of what's happened over the holidays with the airlines, with the virus, with the numbers. There's other things happening that I think are really positive about travel. And that is, there's a reason why those airlines were packed and airports were packed, because people just want to go. They just want to meet with their loved ones. They want to reconnect. They want to travel to places. And we'll figure this out. But I think that's the positive thing is no one said, oh, I'm not traveling.
Yeah, it's just, I think the bigger issue is when things finally kind of clear up, or whatever the new normal is, there's going to be such a response to that. It's going to be, everyone's going to be going somewhere.
Well, we've already seen that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why we had December the way it is. That's why the summer was phenomenal. I mean, everything has really beat people's expectations of numbers, and I think it's just travel is. I think more people are understand its importance. I really do. I think more people understand this is not a privilege. It's not a necessity. It is a necessity. It's not a luxury, and we should just go where we can afford and what's close, and if we can go further, go further. So. I think
that's great. So I think we'll leave. Mark's asked great questions. This is our last Facebook Live for a while, and I think it is. We
I didn't realize that.
We did 5 weeks.
That's it. That's all the contract was for.
We
haven't been renewed.
The Las Vegas promoter paid us for 5 weeks, and we're doing 5 weeks.
No, I
got
it. I got it. We're the Celine Dion of Facebook Live.
But no, we tie these to episodes we film, and we watch one of the episodes, and that's the, we watched our episodes for season 4.
So when will we be watching our episodes for season 5? I'm going to put Kevin on the spot.
Figure that out, and it might be another year. Might be.
Really?
Might be. I don't know. We got to figure it out. You tell us. I think we showed last year when we were on our cruise ship in Bordeaux that when there's things happening, we can certainly spin these up and do them. But I think the more important thing is, versus focusing on the negative, is the positive, is that we have 5 awesome, heartfelt new episodes coming out this week.
We have 8.
I said 5?
You said 5.
5 was last year. So 8.
Yeah.
So 5 heartfelt, 3 not so much.
Yeah.
No. I think our new episodes we filmed all last year, and they're wonderful.
They're wonderful, and they're really particular to the time, because they were all filmed at a time where we were just really coming out of the isolation of the pandemic. The vaccine was in place. There was a sense of hope. But there was still this trepidation of what is it going to be like when we kind of get together, because we're all socially awkward now, right? And it was really amazing for me to be with people during that time of trepidation, of like, well, how do we go forward? Because the conversations are really poignant. The connection with people. We're talking about really how we use travel in order to have the conversations that are becoming so volatile in this country. And yet when you meet people, they become less so, because now you understand their perspectives. Like Rick Steve says, there's always 2 sides to the wall, right? There's the one side and there's the other side of the wall, but they're all looking at the same wall, and maybe we should look at different perspectives. So it's really understanding travel through that travel is a way that we can connect with people who are not like us. where we can listen to them to understand and not just respond, right? We can listen to people. And travel is one of the few areas of our lives that we really allow that to happen, because I think a lot of the United States especially has become incredibly solidified and wood-headedness in our beliefs of what we feel and how things should be. And when you meet the other and you understand a different perspective, you're like, oh, okay. I understand that. I understand that's coming from a human being. And so I feel like that's where travel, in terms of going forward, how it is going to help us bridge these gaps that we have, not just in the world, but with ourselves as Americans. And so we have, I wouldn't say it's like a really serious, but we touch upon different people's lives, right? Mm-hmm. And we understand them. And they're all people who you will have a connection with through travel. They have a band, they make art, they create tours to understand different parts of a neighborhood that never gets spoken about when tour groups come through. And so it's really creating this dialogue that I feel like it's okay to have when we travel, because we are more open to it. So I hope you love it. I do. In terms of editing these shows, it's been incredible, just the people we've gotten to be with, and what we've been able not to hear through talking heads and pundits on the news, but just through human beings. And it's a great way to start, and it's a great way to, I feel like, experience travel. That understanding.
So well said. And you can tell that our great friend Daniel works for a public television channel when he says, let's just do a Facebook Live where Sam reads a Rick Steves travel guide out loud.
Oh, I love that. And I'll have my warm Coke with one ice cube, just to really bring home
begged for that one ice cube.
And I'll
you
beg
begged
for that one ice
cube.
cube. And I'll read my Rick Steves guide. Yeah, exactly.
Thanks, Daniel. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
No, but we'll think about that. I think we really appreciate everyone's valuing.
I love that.
That's
a very good point. Yeah, we've got to do that too. Yep. I want a Facebook Live during filming. That's we will.
Really? I love that. Are you sure you love that?
Listen,
she's in bed by 8:30.
After a 12-hour day of me being on, I'm kaput.
Yeah.
But
it would just be me while Sam just zones out.
But so we do 2-hour Facebook Lives. Like, we can do a 15-minute Facebook Live.
I never thought about that.
Yeah.
15
Kevin.
minutes. It's a whole new world. 15 minutes, really? All right. Anyway, but it will be a little while until we join everyone again, and we so value.
But we have our show, and we'll
these...
be communicating through the episodes, because we want to put all of our attention on the show and the people you are about to meet.
Yeah,
they are phenomenal.
Yeah, and we created a little URL, samb.tv/watch. We'll take you to our webpage that has a little applet you can put your zip code in and find out exactly when the shows are airing in your area. And we got 8 great episodes.
Phenomenal episodes.
Can I do them in order?
Yeah. Asheville, North Carolina.
Asheville, Jersey Shore and more.
At Jersey Shore and more.
Genesee River Valley, which is south of
Upstate
Rochester, New York, upstate New York.
Louisville,
Houston, Texas. Number 2, Part 2.
Part 2. Mm-hmm.
Louisville, and Bourbon Country. I'm a bourbon guy, and that I might have had something to do with that and Bourbon Country part. That's 5. 6 is Colorado Springs. Awesome. 7, San Antonio. Really good. Mm-hmm. And then our final episode is Boston, Massachusetts.
Boston. I'm from New Hampshire, so I got to meet a lot of people with my accent.
Yeah. And all of them, great stories, great people.
Phenomenal.
Great experiences.
Yeah, really seeing, especially Boston, in a different light, going through of course the colonial history, but going way beyond that.
Yeah.
I think you'll be really, and San Antonio, where we've literally just signed off on that one today. Oh my gosh, yeah. David, I know you hate us right now.
David, this is the time of year that David hates us.
And he has every reason.
In summer in Bordeaux, David loves us. This time of year, totally hates us. And that's okay. We get it.
Yeah. Anyway, so.
Thanks everyone again for joining us. And we will see you soon.
Yeah.
We appreciate everyone tuning in. And
Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year. All right, good night.
Good night. Nice. Where's Rick?